I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here. I really don't know what I'm doing here. This says Boss Elite. That's like Jumbo Shrimp or Biggie Smalls. It just doesn't make sense. And why does it always gotta be Biggie Smalls or Little Yachty? Like, a yacht's a big boat. Why can't it just be Wayne? I'm giving you guys a video on a Boss radio. This could be bad, it could be good, but I do know that we're gonna test this thing and find out if it's worth the $342 I paid for it. Okay, so I gotta give you guys a story of how I ended up with this. I have an old 02 F250. It's a crew cab, four-wheel drive, 7.3 liter diesel. It's the shop truck. I go pick up wood with it, I go pick up metal with it. Other than that, I really don't take it anywhere. I'll haul cars with it. The dog and I will, she jumps in, she'll go for a ride. But typically it sits at the house. And with COVID and everything hit it the way it was, people stayed home even more. So the truck really sat for a long time. And my daughter picked up her vehicle. She's driving age. She picked her vehicle up. And when she got it, it had a dual single den crap unit from Walmart. Sounded horrible. So since I hardly drove the truck, I was like, you know what? You can have the radio out of the truck. I yanked that Pioneer App Radio 4 out, put it in her vehicle. She's absolutely happy. So for me, driving without a radio was no big deal. Then my daughter ended up in a wreck. Someone pulled out in front of her. She couldn't avoid them. She hit them. So now we're in a situation where my daughter will take my wife's vehicle sometimes. She's driving it. My wife will take my truck, and my wife is like 5'4", short Asian woman, driving a big crew cab F250 with no radio in it, which means no reverse camera. And in the time that it sat, the rearview mirror had also fallen off the windshield. So she just left to the side mirrors, and that's how she's getting around in the truck. So this past weekend, I was going to go pick up an SPL vehicle, and I needed a trailer. So I called my buddy Mike at the tent shop, and I was like, Mike, I need a car hauler. And he said, I've got one for you. Come over here, we'll fill it out. You can pick it up tomorrow. So I get over there, and while I'm there, on the way there, I should say, I saw my wife's vehicle parked on Fort Gordon. She had backed it into this tight space. And I'm like, wow, she did that with no reverse camera, no rearview mirror. I should probably put a radio in there so the reverse camera is going again. So I went over there, pick up the, do the paperwork for the trailer pickup for Mike. And I said, Mike, I need a cheap double den to go in the truck. I don't care about it being something spectacular. It doesn't need to be like a Kenwood Exelon. I just need a cheap radio. And he goes, how about a 10.1 inch Boss Elite? And he was expecting a crazy reaction from me, but I had read about the Boss Elite stuff twice in different groups on the internet, on Facebook. So I was like, I've been interested in them, I'll take one. And he goes, well, okay. So here it is. I have one that is in my truck, and I have another one here that's on the bench I've got wired up to test. So what I'm going to do is give you guys a complete rundown of this radio. Features, we're going to test the output voltages, and we're going to find out if this thing is worth the $342 that I paid for it. Now looking at the back of the box, you can see this says it's a 10.1 inch capacitive touchscreen, multicolor illumination options. Now features, look at this first one. High resolution FLAC playback. You got WAV, MP3, WMA, Bluetooth streaming, stream and control your favorite music apps, Bluetooth hands-free, USB port 1 for CarPlay and Android Auto, 1.5 amp charging, USB port 2 media, 1.5 amp charging, compatible with audio from iPod, iPhone, smartphones, AV input, front and rear camera input, front rear sub pre-outs. So general features, CarPlay, Android Auto, single DIN, capacitive touchscreen, multicolor, so on and so on. Right here, 85x4 can be updated by USB, and steering wheel controls. No steering wheel interface is included. So let's go ahead and take a look at what you get. So when you unpack this thing, you're going to have two bags. The first one is going to have your Bluetooth mic with a sock on it. There's some brackets and hardware here, some back strap, and the tools to disengage the unit if you ever want to remove it from the case that it comes with, the cage. So I want to put these guys aside, and the other bag is going to have your manual and warranty information. So let's take a look at this manual. It goes over your basic functions. There's precautions in there about connections, images, and video. Don't watch video while you're driving. There are 4 buttons on it. There's a home button, which is your menu button. You've got the microphone button, which is your virtual assistant like Siri. You've got a mode button and then a band button. And on the bottom right here is the reset button for the unit. So if we go through the manual here, you've got your basic connections, and you've got your front left and right, rear left and right, your sub pre-outs, and then you have a column here that is your audio video input. They go over your USB connections. So you got 1, 2, rear camera, front camera, and your microphone input. Installation instructions. Again, install instructions. It shows that you can tilt back and forth, left and right, and you can position it up and down. Now, if we go through here, you can see more settings. What I want to get to that I really want to touch on is, let's get to it. I know it's here. I know it's here. Right here. All right, so we have audio max power, again, 85x4, speaker load 4 to 8 ohms. We do have a 10-band EQ. There's 5 preset EQs. And your EQ, you can boost and cut 6 dB. Now, the preamp side of it, the RCAs, they advertise front 4 volt, full range, rear 4 volt, full range, and sub is a mono subwoofer output. So it is not a left and right subwoofer output, it is mono. And you'll notice it, I don't know if you guys can see this, it says 4 volt low pass filter. And so your sub low pass filter settings, it has 80 or 50, 80, 120, and 160. So we will get into that. Apple CarPlay iPhone support is iPhone 5 or newer. So this is the screen. And again, you got your home button that gets to your main menu on it. This microphone is your, say, Siri button. Mode is going to select, you can go to all your different sources. Band is for your radio, and this is your volume knob. Again, reset button is right there. You got to press inside there. So this is the unit. Again, you can take this, you can pivot left, right, you can pivot it up and down, and you can actually position this unit up and down as it's mounted to the vehicle. So that is the screen. I'm not going to mess with that one because that is the one from the packaging. This screen here is the one that I actually took out of my truck, and I'm going to show you guys. I've got this here. It's hooked up to a power supply. I've got my PAA6 here. This PAA6 we're going to use to measure the RCA output levels, and I've got an O-scope here that we're going to use to measure the high level output of the unit. And right here I also have my distortion detector. Distortion detector measures distortion. It is not a device used to measure clipping, which is what you see on the O-scope. So I wanted to go ahead and hook up the distortion detector and have it powered up as well and test it at the same time that I'm measuring the high level outputs with the O-scope, because there are instances where you can measure distortion before you measure clipping on the O-scope. So I just wanted to hook both of these up on the high level outputs and see what we're getting here. Again, we're going to measure the RCA outputs with the BE10ACP, and we're going to see what this thing will actually do. So to make the screens easier to see, I'm going to power the lights off and then we'll get started. So I'm going to show you guys how I've got stuff hooked up real quick. The DD1 is hooked up to the front right output of the unit on the high level. The O-scope is hooked up to the front left output on high level. The BE10ACP is measuring the RCA output voltage. So on the back of this, let's go over the connections. You have two USBs. The longer one is your CarPlay and Android Auto. It uses the same USB. Again, that's a 1.5 amp. The other USB is just for charging, or if you want to plug in, say, a thumb drive to it. You have your microphone input, and then you have rear camera input, front camera input. It does have input for front and rear. You've got your rear right and rear left. Right here, this is your steering wheel input. And these two guys here, the solid red with white and red with blue, this is rear camera power positive, rear camera or front camera power positive. Over here we have reverse input to activate the rear camera. We have parking brake input and your steering wheel control input, and then one other straggler we have over here is your illumination. You also have your antenna output and your remote output. I have battery positive, accessory, and ground hooked up to a power supply that's under here. It does have a fan that makes noise, so I just threw it under the towel to try to muffle that as I shoot video. So at this point, now that we've gone over connections and I show you what everything is hooked up to measure, I'm going to shut the lights off. We're going to see this guy power up and we'll go through the testing process. So I'm going to go ahead and kick the power supply on here. You guys will get to see the radio power up. Got the nice little Boss Elite logo, something new. Alright, so we have watching video while driving is against federal, state, and local laws. And now we have our main menu. You can see Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. This is Bluetooth streaming or your USB. That would be your thumb drive that you could plug in. Camera settings, your AM/FM tuner, hands-free Bluetooth for calls, the audio video inputs, that's your RCA inputs that are on the back of the unit. This right here goes straight to your EQ, and right here is your radio settings. Now, something that is not mentioned in the manual and something you don't see on the side of the screen is that there are more options here than what you see. You just have to scroll. There's no arrows or no bar on the side here to let you know you need to do that. So general settings, we have language, time zone, date time, daylight savings times, power or system tone, power off delay, factory reset, and your end user license agreement. Audio adjustments, we have a balance and fader. We can adjust balance and fade. You can touch, move everything. That way I go back. Subwoofer filter. Now the sub filter, sub level, this is as it comes out of the box. I have not touched anything here. So EQ, again, there's our 10-band EQ. We're 32, 63, 125, 250, 500, 1K, 2K, 4K, 8K, 16K. If I cycle through these, you can see a setting that it has pre-programmed for R&B, one for rock, one for pop, one for hip hop, one for jazz, and then we come back to flat where you can set a user determined EQ setting. Loudness function, on and off. We're going to leave that off for testing. There's an internal amp. That internal amp is for the high level outputs. You can turn that on and off in the menu. Now, if you're going to use the RCA outputs, Boss suggests turning that off. That is in the manual. But right now, we're leaving it on because we're going to test outputs with the oscope. Default volume, main, Bluetooth ring, Bluetooth talking, Navi, voice, it's all there. Independent source level adjustment per source. So look at this, you've got Apple CarPlay, you've got Android Auto. If one of you uses Apple CarPlay and say your girlfriend, your wife, or whoever uses Android Auto, you can have independent source level adjustments even though they use the same USB for each device. Audio video input, Bluetooth audio, USB, and the radio, independent source level adjustments. So I'm going to leave all of these at the default setting as we do these tests. And that is the last setting there. Display, illumination control, we've got gamma, day and night, brightness, and again, these are all menus that you can scroll through even though there are no indicators on the side. LED animation, that is this here at the bottom. You can turn that off, and then you have the ability to select the illumination color at the bottom. User interface settings, you can select a wallpaper. So you can select wallpapers, go back, background brightness. This is your Bluetooth settings, name of the device, camera. If you have a rear camera, obviously, you can set that up. Rear camera power, rear camera view, front camera view, parking assist guide, and parking assist guide adjust. You can turn the parking assist guide on, and then you can go in and adjust the parking assist guide here at the unit. So we're going to go back to the home screen, and I am going to plug in my iPhone, and we're going to use Apple CarPlay. Alright, so I'm going to plug in this iPhone, and you guys should see CarPlay come up. There it is. So I went ahead and have the overlap track going, but if I hit home here, we're at CarPlay. I can touch over here and have multiple, I can select, as always, the CarPlay apps, and you can turn these on and off. I can go into and select Waze, I can select music, I can go straight to the phone. But for what we're going to do, we're going to run music, and what I'm going to do is use the test tracks from the DD1 Plus. And what I'm going to do is run, say, a 1 kilohertz test track for testing the front high level and RCA outputs. So I'm going to go ahead and start this 1K 0 dB track, and we will look at that on our equipment here. So if I come over here, let me get this set up just a little better for you there. Alright, so you can see both of them, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on the DD1. So I'm going to select this to measure, and I'm going to come up on volume here, and you guys will see the signal on both the oscope and the PAA6. So I want to come up and I want to see at what point these distort. Alright, so my distortion detector just came on here, and that is showing me that right here I do have clipping. So at this point on the high level output at volume 42, I'm clean. If I go to volume 43, you can see how this just comes off. So I'm going from volume 42 on the head unit at 1K with flat EQ, loudness off. I have a clean signal there. There's no distortion. The distortion detector measures the third harmonic of the fundamental frequency, and if that third harmonic hits 1% of the output voltage of that fundamental frequency, that is when the distortion light comes on. It does not come on when this signal visually clips on the oscope. Harmonic distortion and clipping are two very different things. You can have harmonic distortion before the signal clips, but every time this signal clips, you will have harmonic distortion. So the maximum clean output at the high levels, we're sitting at 42 out of 50 on the volume output. So we're going to ignore this now, and we're going to look over here at the RCAs and see what the RCAs are doing. And if I look over here on the output of the high level, I'm at 7.8 volts RMS. So that's a 1 kilohertz sine wave at 7.8 volts RMS. A nominal 4 ohm load, that is about 15.1, 15.2 volts, or 15.1, 15.2 watts on the output. So that 85 by 4 that they advertised with 1K 0 dB tone, we're getting 7.8 volts RMS, which is about 15.2 watts RMS clean before it distorts. So now at this point, again, we're going to look right here and we're going to watch this guy. And if I come up on this, you guys may be able to see the voltage over here. I'm coming up on volume. I am at volume 49 right now, and I'm at this goes up to 50. I am at volume 50. I'm at full volume, and I'm at 3.46 volts, and this signal is clean. So the RCA output at full volume right now with 1 kilohertz 0 dB is clean. I can go full tilt, but I'm not getting the 4 volt advertised output. I'm getting 3.46, so essentially 3.5 volts. So at this point, I'm going to switch over to the 40 hertz track, and we're going to look at that signal. Ooh, that doesn't look good, does it? So I need to come down on volume. This is 40 hertz 0 dB. And I am at volume 44, but this is on just the front output. So volume 45, I am getting a, I'm going to go ahead and change this as well so you guys can see it here. So I'm going to set both of these up and let you guys see this. So 40 hertz 0 dB. Take a look right here, and I am on 44 on the volume, 43, and I'm just going to keep coming down on volume, and now at volume 37 my high level output is clean at volume level 37 on a 40 hertz tone. If I come up on the volume to 44, I'm clean, but if I hit 45, you can see it deform there. So volume level 44 is clean. So 44 is clean on the RCAs. It's not clean on the high level. So let's come back down. We're clean on high level at 40 Hertz, 0 dB, and this is on the front pre-outs. The trick is if you're using your front speakers and let's say you want to use a subwoofer. Let's see what happens here when I go to the sub output. I'm going to go ahead and change this. Remember, we are dealing with a mono sub output with this unit. Even though it has two, we're dealing with a mono sub out. So I just switched from the front pre-out to the sub pre-out, and I'm down to at the same volume level, I'm down to 0.65 volts, and it's telling me that I am at 40 Hertz. So I'm going to go over here into the settings and see if I can't get a little more out of this guy. And this is something I noticed, and you can see we're now up to 1.476. So the sub level, you guys can see this over there, that was at a default 7 from the head unit. I'm getting 0.7 volts, 0.65. So if I bring this up, you guys can see it come up there. So my suggestion is to get the sub level up here to get higher voltage into your amplifier. And on this now, since I have the sub level up, we're going to keep coming up on volume. I'm going to let you guys see this. And right there, volume 43, you guys can look, the signal here, you guys can see that signal. I'm at 42, we're looking good. 43 looks, make sure you guys can see it. 42 looks good, 43 looks good, and then it distorts a little bit there at 44. So volume 43 on the sub-level output is good. We know our high level, the internal amplifier in the unit, just shits itself. It clips at anything over, gosh, what is that? 38? 38, it likes to, let's see, we're clean at 37, and at 38 it clips. So with that 40 Hertz tone, 0 dB, we are clean at volume 37. If we go to volume 38, you guys can see the distortion light comes on because it's clipping, and you can see it distorted on the waveform there. It's just starting to clip. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and measure the actual other things, like if I send peak noise into it, what does it do? So I'm still on the sub output, and I'm on the Audio Frog test CD now. It comes with the UMI 1 mic, and I'm going to go ahead and play mono peak noise track. And let me get this set up so you guys can see exactly what's going on here with the with this output. So if I go there, we're on the mono peak noise, and I want to select, I'm going to try to get this set up where you guys can see. I want to go back to settings, and remember our subwoofer, we have multiple filter settings. So there's 160 Hertz, and you guys can see right here, this is 250. So I'm at 160 Hertz low pass right now. I'm at 120, I'm at 80, I'm at 50, and of course it's off. So this is the full range output coming through the mono subwoofer output at this time. So we do have a low pass filter for the subwoofer. And that right there is the 50 Hertz low pass filter. So the next thing I'm going to do is move to the front outputs and show you peak noise playing through there. So now we're on the front output and we're playing mono peak noise, and you guys can see that we've pretty much got nice even output throughout there. If I come over here, anytime I adjust volume, you guys see this custom right here. If I adjust volume, I can touch that and that takes us directly to our EQ settings, and there are no EQ settings set on this user adjustable preset. So that is the measurements of the system. The trick to this is, I'm showing you, the front has full range output. We have a low pass filter for the subwoofer. We do not have a high pass filter for the front or the rear on the radio. So my battery died there as I was going through that, but the issue I noticed within the first 5 minutes as I had this thing in my truck was that it was kind of boomy. There was nothing I could do to remove the, I guess, the bloated sound that it had. And the reason is I have a low pass filter on the subwoofer. I did not have a high pass filter that I could use on the mids and highs. There's no high pass filter on the high level. There's no high pass filter on the line level output. So if you're one of the people that just has stock speakers and a subwoofer, you're likely going to love it because it's going to give you this big, thick, robust sound. But if you're somebody like me that's used a processor in every vehicle you've had for years, you're going to want that high pass filter, so you would need to add a processor to this to get that. Other things I noticed was the discrepancy between the output of the high level and the RCA, the low level, because I'm running, again, in my truck I have Hertz Energies powered off of the head unit, and then my sub is in the center console and it's an old Image Dynamics 12. So I'm using that Image Dynamics 12 on, believe it or not, an MTX Thunder 8100, I believe. It's the big chrome amplifier. So I've got old gear in the truck. Again, it's an old work truck. But going from the Pioneer, the App Radio 4, to this, I had a more boomy bottom end. That's just because the door speakers were constantly playing bass. I had the crossover of the sub also playing it, so it was just kind of bloated there. And something else I noticed is that the RCA outputs on the sub channel, you really have to turn that sub level up to get it, and I'm going to go over that. I made notes here. You guys saw what I went through in the video, but we're going to go over this. So we have high level output measurements and RCA output measurements. At 40 Hertz, 0 dB, we could go up to a clean volume level of 44. That was on the RCAs. On 1K 0 dB, we could go up to a clean volume level of 50. And both of those were right at 3.3, 3.4 volts. Now on the sub, I used 40 dB to measure the sub output. Max clean volume level on the sub was 43. And I measured on the sub output level 3 volts. And that was with the sub level in the head unit at 14. That was the most I could get out of the head unit on the sub level, clean, 3 volts. Now, high level outputs at 1K, volume 42 was our max clean output. At 40 Hertz, volume, what is this, 37 was our max clean output. So again, it's not a horrible radio. They advertise 4 volt output. We're getting 3.5. We got 3 on sub. So you're going to have to adjust your sub-level output or your gain on your sub-amp a little higher. The high levels, max volume, I would suggest 37. Even though it goes up to 50, 37 is the max clean you're going to get. Otherwise, you're amplifying a clip signal, which is going to cause issues down the system chain. But yeah, if you're using RCA outputs, volume 43 would be my max, because that's the cleanest signal you're going to get out of the sub-channel. At 1K, 50 is clean, max volume. At 40 Hertz, 44 is the max clean volume on the head unit. So notes there. Prior to this video, prior to starting this video, again, I did have one of these in the truck. I used it for 9 hours on a road trip Saturday. I don't hate it. It does have little shortcomings, like no high pass filter, and the fact that I cannot adjust that's my biggest thing, the high pass filter. As far as the touch screen, the display is great. I love the display, but I just wish it had that high pass filter. The fact that it doesn't have, basic time alignment and stuff built in like the Pioneer does not bother me at all. I'd be happy, honestly, I'd be happy putting this in any vehicle I own, unless I was actually going to compete as Q. The sound quality, there was no issue with the sound quality. I ran this thing again. I went to Pigeon Forge and back. It was 9+ hours, and I was happy with it. The only thing, the constant underlying thing that bugged me was the boominess of having the sub playing and those door speakers just playing full range. So I could not control that, and it bugged the piss out of me. So that is my chief complaint. Otherwise, this is a great unit. And to disconnect, I know I showed you guys this nice screen here, but to disconnect the screen from the unit, I never showed you guys. So it plugs in just like this, and then you have two buttons right here, and you press those two buttons and the screen comes off. So here I am. So you press those two buttons, the screen comes off. This is what's left in your dash. So if you go somewhere, you're going to park your vehicle and you don't want this big 10.1-inch screen sticking out, all you do is press the two buttons, screen comes off, and that's what's left. So final takeaway, for $342, what I'm getting out of it, I'm absolutely happy. With the warranty. Now Mike, again, I got this from Mike at the tent shop over in Grovetown. Mike says it has a 5-year warranty. The warranty card, and I'm going to look at this with you. The warranty card says, I'm going to go word for word here, 1 year on mobile video, CD, DVD receivers, subwoofers, speakers, tweeters, ATV, UTV, and motorcycle sound systems from date of purchase. 5 year on amplifiers. So this isn't mobile video, I wouldn't guess, but Mike says it has a 5-year warranty. This says 1 year or 5 year on amplifiers, and dude, it's Boss with a 5-year warranty. So $342, 10.1-inch screen. The screen is killer. I love it. I can't complain about the screen at all. It's quick. It's just a nice screen. The resolution's great on it. It's 1080 by 600, and that is it. That's all I've got for this. So again, I'd read about these and very little about them. Two people's like, oh, they don't completely suck. And when Mike mentioned it, I was like, you know what? It's cheap. Let's go for it. I put it in. I'm happy with it. And I told him I wanted to grab one just to test, to show you guys, because again, there is a shortage of radios right now, and something like this at 350 bucks is tough to beat, especially if you already have other equipment. So if you've got a vehicle that you just want a cheap radio in and you want the features that this gives with CarPlay and Android Auto, it's tough to beat. So there you are, final takeaway. I would absolutely recommend it. It's in my vehicle. See you guys later.